Okay, we are making one of my all-time favorite casseroles to start the show with. You know, I'm all about casseroles, and this is one of my go-tos when I'm having company come because, yes, as I mentioned, casseroles are company-worthy. They're also great comfort food. So this is my chicken spaghetti casserole, and it is delicious. The first thing I want to do is get my spaghetti into my boiling water, and this just takes 1 box of regular old spaghetti noodles, whatever's on sale. And this casserole is going to serve 6 to 8, maybe even with some leftovers, which I think are a good thing. Leftover casseroles, take a little bit of that for lunch and you are good to go. This is also pretty inexpensive to make, and as I said, it feeds a crowd and it's something a little bit different. It's kid-friendly too, which is nice. Okay, so while my noodles are hanging out doing their thing, I'm going to start sauteing some veggies. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this casserole. I want to finely dice up some onion, pepper, green pepper, and celery. So I remember when I had just bought, Bob and I had bought our first home, and Riley was very little, and the in-laws were coming to stay with us. I think Riley might have been a newborn. And I was very nervous. I think it was the first time my in-laws had come to stay, and I was working that day. So I thought, oh, what can I make for dinner so that I can enjoy them, kind of have it out of the way, and something that they would really enjoy as well. You know, I wanted to make them something good, but I didn't want to be stuck in the kitchen the whole time. I knew I was having a busy week, so I thought, okay, let's go with a casserole, and let's make a special casserole. And it was a hit. I remember serving it, and they went crazy over it, and I thought, okay, when company's coming, this is a perfect make-ahead. This is one of those, which Sunday is my big casserole making day, usually. So I'm going to do one of the biggest pots you have, and you'll see why in a little bit. I'm melting a few tablespoons of butter. And anyway, so Sunday is my big casserole making day. I find that if I can get a casserole or two done on a Sunday, then all week long, you know, I know if it's going to be a crazy busy day that I can just come home from work and throw that casserole in the oven and dinner's done. Sometimes I'll even make 2 casseroles, one for now and one to freeze for another time. You've got the ingredients, you're cutting them up, and you've got them anyway, so why not? So in goes our celery, which again were very finely diced, onion, and this is about a cup of each, and green pepper. If your family doesn't do green pepper, you can leave it out, not a big deal. This is what they call the Holy Trinity down south, and this is really is a good kind of southern comfort food casserole. Everyone who's ever tried it loves it. It is a winner for sure. This is a great one if somebody's having a baby or just had a baby, or you know, sadly, there was maybe family tragedy, death in the family, and you've got to bring a casserole or even a welcome to new neighbor. This is a perfect one to bring. They'll be asking for the recipe. They really will. All right, so I'm going to let my veggies cook a little bit. I'm going to season them with some black pepper. And I'm going to do a little garlic salt. It's going to give this some nice flavor. In this recipe, you could certainly do fresh garlic, but we're going to keep it pretty simple. So yeah, Sunday is a great day to, you know, stay in sweatpants, hang out, and do some cooking for the week, and that's really the way I roll. People ask me all the time, how in the world do you do it? How do you get dinner on the table every night? Well, I plan ahead, and I do casseroles, slow cookers, soups, and I try and cook big once on one day of the week, like a Sunday, if that's the best day that I don't have a ton going on. And then I just kind of get her done. What I love about casseroles is not only are they great make-aheads, but everything's all right in there. So you don't have to do a bunch of side dishes. You can keep it pretty simple, especially in this case. It's got the pasta. This is a chicken spaghetti casserole. So just serve a big salad, some bread, and dessert, and you're good to go. So that's why it's very much company worthy. Okay, now for the chicken, while our vegetables are cooking a little bit, in both of my cookbooks, I talk about my secret way to bake chicken breasts. And I get questions about this all the time as well. So if Sunday is my big cooking day and my theme for the week, and I normally try and have a theme, whether it be a pot roast, and then I turn the pot roast into, you know, hot beef sandwiches, barbecue beef sandwiches, a soup, a stew. I kind of get inspired by what my family's feeling, what I have in the freezer that needs using. I normally always have chicken breasts in the freezer, or I go through the ads in the paper on Sunday and see what's on sale. So if I'm doing chicken breasts, I like to roast up maybe 12 or even 16 at the same time. And I know a lot of people, when they're doing casseroles, they'll boil the chicken breasts. Well, you know what? I find that that's kind of a hassle, and it doesn't give the chicken very much flavor. And I think that there are better ways to do it. All right, so my veggies are getting to a great point here, and I'm going to add a couple of things to get this going, and we'll get back to the chicken. So I'm doing 1 can of cream of celery soup and 1 can of cream of chicken soup. This is going to be the binder that's going to pull this whole casserole together and give it some great flavor. People I know give me a hard time about my cream soups. They really work great in a lot of my casserole recipes, I just got to tell you. If you didn't have a can of cream of chicken and cream of celery, you could certainly do 2 cans of cream of chicken or 2 cans of cream of celery. I really like mixing the two, but it's up to you. Okay, now we're going to do some chicken stock. And some Lammer's milk. I'm just going to bring that to a simmer. This recipe, if you like pasta, chicken, and cheese, you are going to go nuts over this casserole because it's got it all in there. You know, I'm going to actually drain my noodles right now. Because we're baking this casserole in the oven, I don't want to overcook my pasta. So you really want to actually undercook it a little bit. Always think of that. If pasta is going into your casserole, or rice, or potatoes, think about that. Think about undercooking them a little bit because you don't want mushy rice, mushy potatoes, or in this case, mushy pasta, because it's going to bake again in the oven. I'm just going to run this over some cold water over this, and this is going to stop the cooking process. Okay. So pasta done. Let's get back to our sauce here. Now here comes our cheese. It's a cheesy chicken spaghetti. So I'm going to add a couple of cups of Velveeta cheese. This is a really wonderful melting cheese, and it's my cheese of choice for this recipe. Once it hits the hot liquid, it's going to melt right away. Really works well. You could use a shredded cheddar. That would be fine as well. But this really melts well, and you don't have to worry about it separating. Just going to check on the casserole that I have in the oven. Oh, it's looking bubbly and delicious. All right, now back to the chicken breast and roasting the chicken breasts. I like to line them up. If I'm doing 12, maybe 12 on a large sheet of foil, drizzle the chicken breast with olive oil or a little bit of melted butter. Season them up with my seasoning of choice is either garlic, salt, and pepper, or a little salt and pepper, and keep it pretty neutral because I'm going to be using these chicken breasts in several different recipes throughout the week. So I then make a pouch with the foil, Bake it on a cookie, cookie sheet or a jelly roll pan, 350 for about an hour or so. Let it cool just a little bit in that foil, but I like to work with it when it's warm. It shreds up and cuts up so much easier when it's a little bit warm. So for this recipe, and again, then I'll use a couple of chicken breasts for this recipe, a couple chicken breasts to make maybe chicken noodle soup or, chicken salad, another recipe later in the week. So it's a great way to roast off a bunch of chicken breasts at the same time. Now, I like to, for this recipe, you can dice it, but I really like to kind of get in there with my hands. Sometimes there's parts of chicken that you don't necessarily want in your recipe, and I can just feel it better with my hands, and I just kind of pull it apart. I really think that's one of the best ways to do this. Kind of shred it apart. You could also pick up a rotisserie chicken. So you could have rotisserie chicken as your main meal for one night and take the leftovers. This is a great way to use up leftover chicken. So I always try and do a little bit of extra chicken when I'm doing, if we're serving chicken for dinner, I do a few extra pieces and turn it into a different recipe. That's just a great way to roll. Throw it into a casserole. So I love to serve this casserole with a great big salad. I remember serving it, and still to this day, one of my favorite salads to serve it with is I do a nice strawberry spinach salad with a homemade dressing, and it really pairs perfectly with this because this casserole is a little bit naughty with the cheese and the pasta and all that kind of good stuff going on. So if you serve it with a nice big salad, just something a little lighter. Bread is optional, but that would, if you've got company coming, that would be nice to do a nice loaf of French bread, and then maybe some lovely chocolatey or fruity dessert would be perfect too. We've got a couple of dessert casserole ideas coming up later in the show, so stick around for those ideas. Okay, so I'm just shredding our chicken. These happen to be very, very large chicken breasts, so if your chicken breast the recipe called for 3 to 4 chicken breasts, but these are both so giant that it's a great way to, we really only need 2 for this. So it's kind of, you can use what you have too. All right. And we're just about shredding this all up. Might even have a little extra chicken for chicken salad. Once you start roasting chicken this way, you'll never go the other way as far as you're boiling your chicken. This has so much great flavor. It really does. Okay. At this point, I'm going to turn the heat off here, and we're going to start adding the pasta and the rest of our ingredients. A little more chicken. Now you notice there's a lot of sauce here. One of the secrets to a really good casserole, you want a creamy casserole. I don't want a casserole that's dry as the Arizona desert. So especially if I'm cooking with pasta or potatoes or rice, you'll notice that my recipes have quite a bit of liquid. Instead of 1 can of cream soup, I normally have 2 cans. That is because this is going to really soak up in the oven when it's cooking. So it looks very saucy right now, and that's how it's supposed to look. All right, so I've got a great big, I told you this served a crowd, great big casserole dish. They're so pretty these days, casserole dishes, and I collect different casserole dishes. I kind of think about the colors of the casserole, and there's so much more than just white casserole dishes these days. So I love doing some fun different colors. And then you just dump this all in. This can be made 2 to 3 days ahead of your company coming. You can completely just get her done, get it out of the way. Get those veggies in there. And this is almost going to overflow the dish. That is how it is supposed to be. And then I sprinkle shredded cheddar cheese over the top. About 3 cups of that. And then fresh dried breadcrumbs, just dried Italian breadcrumbs for a little bit of crunch. I like to bake this covered with foil for the first, just so it keeps it really nice and moist, and those noodles covered with sauce for the first half hour or so, and then uncover it and let those breadcrumbs toast up toward the end. Sometimes I put a cookie sheet under while I'm baking because this, like I said, makes a very, very large batch and it can kind of bubble up a little bit. But here it is, my chicken spaghetti casserole right out of the oven. This is how you want to serve it, warm, bubbly. Dig in there, great with the salad, bread, and a nice dessert. Yep, I told you, some casseroles are company worthy, and this one is my cheesy spaghetti casserole. It is always a hit when I serve this. You serve it too, and you will look like a total rock star. Coming up, some more casserole recipes. If you're making meatloaf and you need a good side dish casserole recipe, I'm making a wonderful vegetable casserole. It's a great side with cheese and some crunchies on top, and later some dessert casseroles too. Dump cake and some other fun ideas. So stay with us, we'll be back.